Right, we are live. Hey, everybody. If you are on here live, happy Saturday. And if you're listening to the recording, I hope you're having a great day so far. This is Matt, Porn Free Millennial, and I'm doing my first solo live, I believe. I think this is going to be episode 58, I believe, of the Porn Free Millennial, or no, 59 of the Porn Free Millennial podcast. And this is the first time I've ever done one live before, so this should be fun. Today, we're going to be going over the 5 winning W's for breaking free from porn. And I'm going to be going over an article that I wrote a couple of weeks ago that really, actually, is back in November, that provides a framework. So I'm going to put that in the chat just so you have it. But yeah, if you're watching, if you're listening, hope you're having a good day. Hopefully, this message is finding you well. And before we get started here, I did want to share with you, if you are in the market for a accountability software for your phone, for your laptops, your iPads, I have an affiliate partnership with Ever Accountable. I've been working with them for a little over a year now. I have it on my phone, I have it on my laptops, and it's a great app. It really, I call it an app. It's an app and it's a software. So you can use it on your phone, you can use it on your laptops. I'm going to plug that link in and I'll put that in the show notes and in the video notes too. But I'm actually going to be interviewing the CEO of the company again. I interviewed him last year. His name's Tyler Patterson. And we're going to be talking on Friday. We'll probably put the episode out on Saturday because they have some new updates with the software. They're using AI in a way to track your screen to make sure that any kind of triggering images, anything that's like sexual, it'll get flagged, and then it'll be a message will be sent actually to your accountability partner. They also have filtering and blocking too, and I'm really impressed with the app. I'll share a real funny story, and then we'll jump into the podcast. But I was watching some UFC fights with my dad about a month ago on Paramount Plus, and the software was running in the background, which it does always, and it kept flagging it because two guys are out there fighting each other and hitting each other and stuff and wrestling. And my accountability software kept saying, "Hey, get this off the screen. Hey, get this off the screen." It actually kicked me out. So I had to go in and edit the sensitivity just so that we could watch the UFC fights. But really, that's how impressive it is. Like if I'm on Twitter, if I'm on Substack, and there's like cleavage or something, the software will actually give you a flag message and say, "Take this off your screen." And then if you don't, it'll actually kick you out. So, like I said, I put the link in the chat. So basically, what it is, it's a 14-day free trial. And then if you want to move forward, it's 20% off for the year or 20% off per month. You can kind of choose how you want to do it. So highly recommend. I use it myself, and I recommend it. So with that being said, a little bit of housekeeping there. So we have that podcast coming up next weekend, probably when I'll release it. And that's with the CEO of Ever Accountable. I actually interviewed him too last year, and we talked about just really how the app, or I keep calling it app, but how the software really got built, what his mission is, and really neat guy, really got along well on our call. And the app's actually been around since like 2012. So it's been in the market for a while, really good reviews. So check it out. So with that being said, we're going to go over the 5 winning W's for breaking free from porn. So really, when I wrote this article back in November last year, and what I wanted to do is just have something really comprehensive to help those who are struggling with porn, or if you know someone that's struggling with porn. I think these 5 W's are really going to be helpful. So this is more of things to keep in mind, things to think about. You know, if you're really struggling, if you're having a hard time getting momentum, I would say this is something that's going to help you out a lot. And they're 5 W's, and really they're 5 questions that you want to be asking yourself as you're going through your day, as you're going through your week, as you're going through your month, your year. These are things that I typically think about just about every day. It's more like weaved into my identity, weaved into just the thinking, how I go about things. Because if you're a first time listener, or if you've been listening for a while, I mean, I struggled with porn since I was 10. Uh, and it really did some damage to my life. I had a 5-year marriage, went through a divorce, about 3 years removed from that right now. Been in recovery for close to 8 years. So I think these 5 W's are common sense things, but they're good reminders. They're good reminders to keep in place. So what we're going to go ahead and start with the first W. So the first W is what. So the first W is what. So what is the mechanism of your relapse? Like what's the pathway? So we're going to go at this from a few different angles. So first of all, when you think about what, you can think about what you're looking at, which we'll get into in a second. But really, it's what is the avenue? Is it your phone? Is it your laptop? Is it your iPad? Is it the TV screen? Is it a magazine? Is it something like that? Or is it, hey, I go to the gym and there's really attractive women there, and I keep those images in the back of my head for later. It really, I think with porn, with masturbation, there's a lot of avenues there. There's a lot of ways that we can, I think, feed that craving, that hunger that we have. So the first question is what? So think about that. So if you have a pen, paper, or if you're taking notes, start thinking about, is it like, where do I relapse the most? Do I relapse on my phone the most? Do I relapse on my laptop, TV, magazine? What is it? And then once you pick that, or maybe if it's multiple, then it's thinking about, okay, what kind of apps, what kind of sites, what kind of platforms? What's the place that's the go-to place, right? Like what's the website? Or hey, maybe it's a social media app where, I think with porn, we get pretty creative, we get pretty sneaky with finding things. So it's really thinking about, is it a social media account that you like to go to? Or is it a certain website that you go to? Is it a certain movie? Is it a certain magazine? Is it a certain place potentially that might trigger you? So once you think about the devices themselves, then get a little bit more granular and think about, once you get on those, where are you going? Like, where are the no-go zones? Like, where are the places where, hey, once I enter in, it's really difficult to get out unscathed, and typically it will lead to relapse. Like, that's the question that you want to ask yourself. It's really like the deep end of the pool, I think. It's like you start to dip your toe in the pool, and then you start to move deeper and deeper and deeper, and then it gets really dark, really deep, real quick. And then we're losing stamina. So then it's like you get that feeling of drowning. That's at least how I describe it. So call out your no-goes. So again, if you're taking notes, think about like, what's that specific website? What's that specific app? Like, where do I get in trouble? And be honest with yourself. Like, don't go about it where you're having half measures to be like, well, sometimes I go here and I use this. If it's something that you relapse on and you relapse on more than once, I would say that's a no-go zone. And those are things that you really want to take into account and want to get serious about. If you really want to break free of porn, you got to get really serious. You got to weigh things like, hey, what's the opportunity cost of me potentially deleting this app or taking a break from it or putting accountability software on so that at least when I'm on this app, there's something that's tracking it so that there's accountability there. So like I said, that accountability software that I use, it's really good. And again, you can put it on your laptop, you can put it on your phone, your tablet. And again, it's Ever Accountable. I put the link in the chat. I'll have it in the description. But that's like one thing for me, I think that has been really helpful. I think accountability software, it really takes a lot of the white-knuckling out of it. It takes a lot of the guesswork out of it because it's running without your effort. It's basically making your recovery smarter, not harder. Like you're adding in friction. You have accountability partner that's typically tied to the accountability software. So they get a ping, if you're looking at something that's sensitive. And I think that really helps me, at least with like 90% of it is just having that on because I just know it's working in the background. And then if I wanted to get sneaky and like remove something, like maybe disable the software, that also will give a ping to my accountability partner, which is my little brother. Let him know right away, say, hey, Max being a little bit sneaky right now. Check in with him. So other things too, TVs, movies. This is a real big one. I mean, I'm a big like fantasy sci-fi guy. Really haven't really watched a lot of TV, I'd say, in the past 3 years, really after being divorced. I just don't really watch a lot of TV. I'd say the TV shows I do watch typically are like King of the Hill. That's like my main go-to show, which is pretty safe. But I would say anytime that I still love watching movies. I'm a big movie buff. Anytime I'm watching a movie, especially by myself, and this is something that I've developed over time, is I'll actually just go to like ChatGPT or something and just plug in the movie and just say, hey, does this have like a lot of nudity in it? Like, are there a lot of sex scenes, that kind of thing? And that's something I do ahead of time just to make sure that my environment's safe. Because really, like, my recovery is a lot more important than seeing some movie, in my opinion, or a show. And I know with TV movies today, I mean, a lot of them seem like they're kind of like softcore porn, but there's just so much nudity. I would say gratuitous, unnecessary. Same thing with violence, really. So typically, when I try to watch something, I normally go for movies that are kind of more classic movies. Uh, Movies that are really good. I've been kind of on a Hitchcock binge lately, watching a lot of Alfred Hitchcock movies. But that's something that you have to just be honest with yourself and just ask yourself, like, what do I struggle with? Like, what type of movies are there? And we all know that there's those movies that are like burned in the back of our brain that, hey, we saw that one scene and it sticks with us. And it's like, we got to make sure that we have a game plan for that. So that's something also just to keep in mind is what kind of TV shows, what kind of movies you're watching. I mean, honestly, there's no shame in just looking away. I've watched movies before that I still really enjoy, and I know that there's a scene coming up. I'll either fast forward through it, or if I'm like watching with other people, I'll just look away. I think for me, it's just like I don't need that in my life. I can still enjoy a movie, but if there's nudity in there, like it's not really pushing the plot forward. So I'm just gonna look away, or maybe just leave the room, come back. Like there's no shame in that at all. There's no shame in that at all, and it helps build, I think, a good muscle for just getting yourself out of those sticky situations. So that's another thing, TVs and movies. Think about that. And then the last thing would be like magazines, old photos, save files, hidden folders, forgotten USB sticks. Baiting myself a little bit. But I mean, I remember I wrote in my article actually that I had this old Wheaties box that I think was like for like sports. Like it had like my sports picture on there or something. And I remember I used to like hide porn in there. And I think I eventually burned it. I think I literally threw that Wheaties box in a fire. Uh, and that was back like when I was in middle school, going to high school. And because I knew I was like, I don't want this, but I keep going to it. So I eventually burned that thing. But I think if you have anything physical specifically, like if you have magazines, old photos, things like that, like you just got to purge it out. Like you just got to drop the ring into the fire of Mount Doom and just wipe it out. Because if you leave it there, you're leaving the crack for yourself to get back in. And I think with addiction, and you might not be addicted to porn, but let's just say you go to it habitually and it's not benefiting your life. You got to starve it. You can't keep the snacks out there to keep feeding your cravings, right? You just got to starve it out. And I know it's tough. It's going to be really hard to part with it. But if you want to live a different life, a more renewed life where it's not in your life, you do have to take some drastic measures. Burn the boats, right? Or burn the box, wherever the porn is just burn that thing. Like make a nice fire. I like cigars, so it's like I could have a nice cigar while I'm burning my stash there. I think another thing too, and we're gonna be wrapping up what pretty quickly, the question of what. But I think the other thing too is just tell someone that you trust. Tell them what your plan is. If you have an accountability partner already, let them know. What am I doing with my devices or with my stash? What's my game plan there? And then follow through with it. And once you follow through with it, you're gonna feel great. And then I would also just say too, this one is a little less like devices and stuff. But I was talking about just if you're in an environment, let's just say like the gym or something like that, where it's a little bit more trickery. That's something to also think about as well. Is if it's really causing problems for you, you got to have a game plan for that. I like to go to the gym. I know there's attractive women there. Typically, they don't wear a lot of clothes these days. But my thing that I tell myself is like, if I'm not like sweating, like at the gym, like if I'm not drenched in sweat, I'm not doing enough. Because typically when I get involved with my lifts or if I'm hitting the heavy bag or if I'm shooting hoops, I should be focused on that, right? I should be focused on my own physical well-being rather than just gawking at somebody and saving that for later. But those are things to think about. And it might not even be the gym. I think with porn, when we have that sexualized mind, it could be really any environment. Like if you're going to the store, if you're just like walking around downtown or something, it's just keeping that awareness, just having that awareness. It's not like you can't like, there's always going to be beautiful people out there. There's always going to be stunning people. There's always going to be gorgeous people. That's something that we can't really avoid. But what we can do is just have the awareness of it and just be aware of it so that when we do find ourselves gawking or maybe paying too much attention, we at least have the awareness in our mind with the what to say, okay, I'm getting a little too interested here. I need a break free from that. So again, doing the 5 winning W's, number 1 is what. So number 2 is when. So the second question is when. So when does the temptation tend to strike? So is that late at night? Is that right after work? Is it when you have some downtime when you're isolated? Is it when you're stressed, you're bored, you're lonely, you're angry? Or maybe it's, hey, if you had like a big win, like at work or in personal life, if something really good happened, sometimes porn can be like a celebratory thing, like a bottle of champagne. Or is it a big loss? I know for me, typically when I struggled, I mean, just post-divorce would just be like if the anniversaries came up or I was dating this girl, we had a breakup, like that was triggering for me. It's just being aware of like, what are those moments for you that you find yourself more tempted to feed the craving of going to porn? Because it really is very psychological. It's not all about sexual. I think a lot of people get that wrong. And there's definitely that component to it, obviously. But I think it's more of a psychological thing, especially if you've struggled with it for a while. Like for me, I struggled with it since I was 10. So it's things that start to embed themselves in my habits or into how I was feeling, how I was doing. And typically, almost at one point, it's been like a list of like, hey, I'm bored, go to porn. Hey, I'm stressed, go to porn. Hey, I'm feeling unconfident, go to porn. And funny thing is, right, then it's like a vicious cycle of, well, I'm bored, I go to porn, now I'm more bored because nothing else is as interesting than watching porn all day, right? So I think for me at least, it took a lot of trial and error to start to figure this out. I think part of it is reconnecting with your subconscious because I think our subconscious, it has these built-in systems where I think the subconscious it's almost like a defense mechanism, right? To where the mind thinks, hey, we're going to look at porn here and that's going to help with escaping whatever that negative feeling is or whatever it is. Numbing, that was a big thing for me, numbing my emotions. But I would say start to think about the patterns. Definitely for me, like late at night is typically one for me that normally, like if I'm in a relapse, it's going to be if I can't get sleep, if I feel like restless and my mind's like really active. I think that's when I'm like looking for more stimulation, thinking that, hey, if I can kind of kill this stimulation or if I have a preoccupation in my mind of a thought, if I look at porn or if I masturbate, then hey, now that's done. And maybe that does help a bit initially, but like once it's done, then there's that sense of dread and shame and be like, oh man, like I just did it again. And I think for me, it's just really knowing like when you're starting to drift and slip into that hazy thinking and like when does that happen for you? And I think for people it's different. Actually, statistically, it's Sunday nights is like the highest volume of porn use in the world. It's typically, I think it's like 7 and like 11 p.m. on Sundays. So something to think about there. It could be Sunday nights. So think about your patterns. Think about your patterns there. And I think just like a step that you can think about with when is once you identify those high risk windows, start to preload those windows with something that's intentional. So going on a walk, call with an accountability partner, talking to your friend, girlfriend, spouse, going to workout, journaling, stepping outside. I think when you start to pre-plan for these moments, you'll start to break those habits. And I think if it's a nightly thing, I think for me, something that really helps is just putting my phone and my laptop away from my bed. So I can't have to get up and like grab it. And that in itself will then tell me, hey, like you're starting to get into deeper water because I'm getting up to grab it and to open it, that kind of thing. So that's something I think that helps me out at night. And typically like getting off your phone, your laptop, your TV like an hour before bed is like really good for you. And I know I struggle with it sometimes too still. but just being able to detach from that is really important. So the second W is when. So now we're going to go into the third W is where. Okay, so we talked about first what. So like how are you getting into the porn? Like what devices or like what's the mechanism? And we talked about when is it happening? And now we're going to talk about where. Okay, so this one's pretty big too. So where is the relapse typically happening in your life? So is it your bedroom, your bathroom, your office, in the car, on the couch where you're watching something? Hotel rooms. I know some people travel for work. That's definitely one. I know I work with some guys in the recovery group, and there's one guy that travels all the time. And that's definitely something that we check in is like, what's your game plan while you're in your hotel? Or is there like a specific corner of the house where you can disconnect or feel alone? I think for me, when I owned my home back when I was married, it was typically like the office was like where I'd go, or like the basement, like somewhere where I felt like I had some privacy, somewhere I could like lock the door, somewhere I could get away for a minute, that kind of thing. I think bathroom as well was something that would happen as well. So I think I think something there is just to think about is, and with porn, I think really porn's like an isolating thing, right? You can think about other habits that maybe you're trying to kick, or maybe there's an addiction there, like with substances, like with alcohol or drugs or gambling. Gambling is a little bit tricky because gambling you can do on your phone. So it's a little bit more like porn. But I'd say like for like drinking or drugs, those things can be, um, those things are more tangible. Like you can notice it, right? Uh, but with porn, it's like it's something that you typically are going to do in isolation. So I think with this one, with this W, where start really thinking about writing down like where do I relapse the most? Like what physical location is it where I'm relapsing? Because then like we're talking about with the other two W's, then you can start to build like a little bit of a game plan there of okay, if I am, we know what, we know when. Now we think about where. Once you think about that, then you can start having a game plan for, okay, if I'm doing it in the office, what are some mitigating things that I can do while I'm in the office, while I'm alone, so I'm not looking at porn? It could be potentially removing your devices from there or just communicating that. Like if you're married, if you have a girlfriend or whoever, communicate what your game plan is. Like, hey, I struggle at this time with this device in this place. Here's my plan for it. Uh, And it could be a lot of different places, it could be anywhere. There was one point in my life, I feel like, it could be anywhere where I'd relapse. And it's just really starting to think about, maybe what are some off limit zones for your devices? I know for me, I really try hard not to be on my phone or on my laptop when I'm in my bed at night. That's like the big thing for me. If I can do that, I know personally that I have a lot better chance of having a clean day, a clean night and staying in the green. That's what I like to say a lot is the green is like you're doing well. Yellow is when you're edging, you're on the edge of a relapse, you're kind of playing around with it, you're being a little sneaky. And then red's the relapse. And I think like when I have my phone in the bed or my laptop, that's where I'm starting to inch into that yellow caution territory. So thinking about it that way, I think it helps build boundaries, and boundaries aren't punishments, they're guardrails. And they're guardrails that keep you on track to who you want to be. Like, who do you want to be? It's not a punishment at all, right? Like we're talking about porn here. We're talking about removing it from our lives. So we have to have a strategy. For a while, I struggled since I was 10. I mean, I didn't really have a strategy. I just thought that my faith as a Christian would get me through, or, I'd be busy with sports or maybe dating a girl. I would just feel like, okay, like this should help. I didn't have any kind of game plan for actually thinking about it more tangibly, more strategically to be like, okay, what's my plan for the day? What's my plan for the night? And I think when we really start to do that, our recovery starts to change because we're being more intentional about it and we're thinking about it more. So that is where. So we've got what, we've got when, and then we've got where. So number 4 is why. Okay, so why I wrote in my article that I put in the chat, this is like the linchpin, I think, is like, why are we going to this? Why are we going to porn in the first place? And we talked about it a little bit with when, but, are we going because we're lonely? Are we going because we're bored? Are we going because we want to numb? Are we on autopilot? And it's just something that we're not even thinking about. I remember a lot of times feeling like I was on autopilot. I almost felt like I was possessed. Like I would just go to it. Like it'd be drawn in like the Millennium Falcon with the Death Star, right? You can't escape the tractor beam pulling you in. That's how I felt like with porn. It's a big black hole. If I got too close to it, it would start to pull me in. Is it a reward potentially? Is it something to soothe rejection, emotional pain? I think that happens too. Like when you're in a relationship, and I experienced that in my divorce, was it was like this cycle, right? Of you go to it because it's like this habit, then it causes pain, then you feel ashamed about it, then you go back to it because you feel ashamed and you don't feel like confident in yourself, and it's very nasty. But thinking about the why is really important. And I think my biggest why, like when I go to it, is just when I feel like um I think it's when I feel like I'm not meeting my full potential, when I feel unconfident. Also, when I feel like I'm just not like getting real attention. I think love language for me is like words of affirmation for sure. And I think the times that I've struggled the most is just where I feel like I'm just kind of being overlooked, or um, I feel like I don't have any value. That's a big why for me. Like when I'm in those moments where for whatever reason it is, I feel like I don't have any value. That's like where like my mindset will start to like trigger and like get me there, and I'd be like more of a powerful tractor beam is when I'm feeling that way. That came through a lot of therapy with Christian therapists. I had two of them. That really came out of that was like a big why I go to porn. Was just feeling like I didn't have any value, feeling like a useless kind of. And it took some time to really get through that and to really figure that out. But knowing that and being honest with myself, I can then have the awareness to say, okay, this is why I'm feeling more of like that need to feed that craving that I have. Because the cravings, they come and go, right? Because things can just happen out of nowhere. You might see something on the internet that you weren't planning on seeing, and that will start to kick in a craving, right? It's kind of like almost like if you're going by a restaurant and the food smells so good, but maybe it's like a fast food restaurant or something. You're like, I shouldn't be going here. That's kind of how I think about it in some ways. Is there might just be one little thing. It might be that smell, right? You smell it, you're like, oh man, I really want like a Big Mac right now and some large fries and a big Coke. But if you're in recovery and you're being intentional about it, you can think about that for a second and be like, okay, do I really need to go in there? Do I really need to get, a Big Mac and a Coke and some large fries? And how am I going to feel after that? I'm probably not going to feel great. And it's really taking that moment to stop and think about it and be like, why am I craving this so much? Like, why do I want to feel that need? So think about it. And this one's a deeper one, really. I want to really challenge you on that. Like challenge, like if you're having that hard time with porn and it's like this cyclical thing, habitual thing, it's not just because you think naked women are sexy, or if you're a woman and you want to see naked men or whatever it is. It's more than that. I think there's a reason that we go to it. We want to fill that need. I've heard it before said. There's a really good podcast. The podcast that really got me into recovery is called Porn Free Radio. Episode 50, I interviewed Matt Dobsheets, but he says this a lot, that like seeing like porn as like the solution, basically, the solution there. And I think when you think about that initially, well, porn's not the solution, but like in our mind, yeah, it is. It starts to become like, oh, this is my solution to this need that I want, but we're not actually filling that need, right? We're doing something that is actually decaying our soul, and that is taking us out of the game when it comes to being in the present, living in integrity, living in honesty. I think is what it does. So think about that. Think about your why, and I do have it included in the article I put in the chat. I wrote an article for the Sober app, which is a really good Substack publication, but it was a story about my dad and I. My addiction really locked in, I think, when my dad was struggling with drinking. Never abusive or anything, but he just became distant. I think he was going through some stuff, and it was just really overwhelming, that stage of life we're all in. And I was in high school, and yeah, it was just like, it really locked in sometimes, that feeling of not being valued, because He played college basketball. Like I was just going into high school and really loved to hoop. I've been playing basketball ever since I picked up, or ever since I started walking, really. And that really locked it in for me because it's, when you're a teenager in high school, I mean, you just like the sex drive is just going out the wall and you don't really know what to do with it. And I just remember when I'd come home sometimes and he'd be in that stupor, I would just go straight to the basement where I was living at the time. And I just like go onto the computer and look at porn. And that became, in a way, like my solution to kind of numb that pain. Because my dad was like always, and still is, and my mom too, but just always so involved. And he grew up being like my basketball coach. And my therapist basically said he was like your light bringer. Like he was the person that you looked up to the most, right? And then seeing him in that state while I was really getting the basketball and really excited about it, I think it was just really hurtful for me because I just didn't really get that attention or that value. Like I was really excited sometimes to come home and talk to him about, practice or whatever. And I'd just be like, he'd be in that state. But like I said, that came through therapy and it was like tough. It wasn't easy to go through those moments. Like it was pretty hard to do that and very personal. But I just share that with you because like it took that going into that for me to really understand, okay, like this is where I get in the danger zone is really like when my psychology feels that way. But I would say for this process, really like a tip would just be don't do it alone. I think it's excavation, right? Like you're excavating something and that's painful. Like that's like digging things up, right? And I think if we're doing it alone sometimes and we're trying to do that and we don't have that guidance or somebody ahead of us that's helping us that's been through it before, you could be digging and you could find some fool's gold, right? You can come to some false conclusions. So highly recommend, I did um, EMDR therapy, which is, I'm not even going to try it. Let's see. I'm going to look up what it stands for. EMDR therapy. I always mess this up. Eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. So it's really interesting. It's a structured evidence-based psychotherapy designed to alleviate distress from traumatic memories. They use a lot too for like soldiers, PTSD. People have gone through some really horrific things. And basically what it does, it's like a stimulation of your eye movements and it helps the brain reprocess stuck and negative memories. Highly effective for reducing the emotional charge of traumatic events, allowing patients to heal without needing to detail the events verbally. So I did that with my therapist, and gosh, it was so helpful. And they kind of vet you to see if you can do it because it can bring up some stuff. I remember how I felt about it was I started to remember things that I totally forgot about or I repressed them most likely, right? And it took like a few months to really go through it, but it was great. And basically, they're asking you questions, and you're like following their finger with your eye, and it literally is like rewiring your brain. And the way he described it to me was, it's kind of like you find like what the biggest domino is, and once you find that domino and you tip it over, it starts to knock over other dominoes. And that really helped me like a ton because it helped me just understand things. It helped me heal with my father. And I just wanted to recommend that. It's not for everybody, but just finding someone that is ahead of you, someone that's professional, potentially, like a therapist, a pastor, a priest, family member. I think with spouses and girlfriends or, if you're dating, you don't want to turn them into like your accountability partner. I found that out the hard way. Cause part of it's like and it depends on the person, right? But I think it's painful for them too. So typically finding like somebody that is outside of that to take the stress off of them and, like the burden on them. Cause sometimes it can feel like they're carrying the burden. It's just really important. I think it's a lifeline is to connect with other people and have other people in the process that care for you, that love you, that you trust. Because I think the healing accelerates when the wound has witnesses, right? And when you can share those burdens across the shoulders of compassion and love, I think that's really important. So that's number four is the why. And then number five. Number five is who. So we're going to end on this one. This is the last W for breaking free from porn. So this is two things really. It's like, who are you when the urge hits? When that craving starts to get really powerful. Who do you become in that moment? And then it's contrasting that with who do you want to be, right? What's the type of person that you want to be? What's the type of a person that someone knows you as, right? And are you aligned with that? Are you divided or are you undivided? Is what someone sees on the outside what's the same in the inside? And I think that was the thing for me that really came through with the divorce in the marriage was I really wasn't, I was incongruent. I was divided. I was conflicted because I had this habit that kept coming up that it was something I was still wrapping my head around as I was going through a relationship, and that's going to happen for us, right? It's not like it's going to be clean and easy. It's going to be messy. It's going to be difficult, but it's definitely something that can be worked through. There's a lot of podcasts of porn of people that were able to recover their relationships. Unfortunately, it didn't happen for me. So I think I bring a little bit of a different perspective there. It's more of a, I want to get married again. That's definitely something that I want to do again. And these are things I know are like really important that can help heal things. Or if you're just starting a relationship, like I had a relationship recently that there was no porn in it, and it was just like a night and day difference, really. So if you're single listening to this too, these are things that you can start taking care of that are really going to benefit you. And then if you're married, these are things that can help you still with healing and getting back on the right track. There's this quote, right? It's like the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago, but the next best time is today. So that's something to think about. But I think more questions about the who, right? So ask yourself, what type of person is the one that looks at porn? What is it? The exhausted version of yourself? Is it the stressed version of yourself? Is it the isolated version of yourself? The disappointed version? The depressed version? The unstructured version? The version overwhelmed by life's demands? The version avoiding responsibility or a hard truth? The version who hasn't been honest with anyone all week? That includes yourself too. The version that sounds like a broken record of excuses and weak justifications. The version who can't stop the bleeding and feels out of options. When I was writing this, pretty much checked all those boxes at one point. So think about that. Ask yourself, what's the version of you when you are relapsing, when you are going to porn to fill whatever that need that's missing? What is that version of you? And name that version of yourself and then ask, is this the version of me that gets to make the decisions? Why are we giving this version of us the steering wheel? Why are we letting them drive the car? Right? They keep wrecking it. We keep getting flat tires. We keep not changing the oil, things like that, right? That version of us is not steering us the right way. But why are we letting that version of us make the decisions? Or on the flip side, is this the version of me that I'm supposed to protect, guide, and heal? Is this who I want to be? Is this who I'm going to be? So ask yourself these questions, right? Of who do you want to be? Like, what's the best version of yourself? When you think about yourself, like at your best, when you are feeling confident, when you're feeling powerful, when you're feeling connected, when you're feeling love, when you're feeling empathetic, when you just feel like, man, I had a great day today. I had a great week. What is that? Like, what version of you is that? And how can you connect with that person that you're proud of, that other people are proud of? Because when I think about it, like I wasn't proud of that version of myself. Like that was me. I think a lot of times we say like that wasn't me. Well, there's a part of it that is us, but it's more of why is that part of us getting like the room? Like why did they have the floor to speak? And really, it's like how can we kick them out and say, yeah, I don't really need you here anymore. It doesn't mean that the cravings aren't going to be there or the needs, right? Like the needs are still going to be there. Like there's going to be times when we're bored and we need some stimulation. There's going to be times that we're stressed out. We need a break. There's going to be times too that, hey, we might need to be more accountable. Like these are there's still going to be things there that we still have to work through there. But does porn have to be a part of it? I don't think it does. So I think this is about really connecting back to who you are and who you want to be. I think with porn, when you start becoming that person you're proud of through your daily activities, your daily habits, your values, you'll start to see like a different version of yourself that you're more proud of, that you're more connected with, and that I think you'll see the ripple effects in your life too, of just how you interact with people. Uh, I've definitely seen that in my life as I've gone through recovery and more lately post divorce, which has been a tough time, but almost like a renewal of who I am because I'm working every day in recovery, every day to break free from this thing. And it's a daily process, I think, but it's more of something that becomes integrated in your life and embedded. It's not like a chore. It's just more of how can I make better decisions? How can I be more aware? And how can I use these 5 Ws that we talked about today to ensure that I have more stability and that I just show up, show up in the good times, show up in bad times, show up in the ugly times. And when you start to do that on a daily basis, you start to build that momentum. It becomes like an anchor for you that will be there to where there are always going to be those times. If you lose somebody that you love or something just happens out of the blue that really throws you, when you have that identity anchor for you, it really helps and it can really get you through those tough times. So maybe think about that as you're listening, as you're watching, is think about that. Think about who do you want to be? Maybe write a few things down. In your best day, what does that person look like? You can write down some adjectives, some verbs, things that you're doing, some nouns. Uh, get something out there. Write it down on paper. So everybody, thanks for hopping on today. If you're listening live, thank you so much. And you're watching live. And then if you're listening whatever day it is, I just want to just share with you some encouragement, like I said, don't wait. I waited and it really cost me a lot of destruction and pain. Like the more that I waited on things, the more that I thought I could hide my secrets, the more that I just said, maybe I'll wait on accountability software. Maybe I'll wait on having an accountability partner. Maybe I'll wait to go to group. I mean, I go to group every week. Been doing that for same group of guys close to 2 years now. Every Thursday night, I'm showing up and we're talking through what we're struggling with. We're talking through what our wins are. We're sharing things with each other. You have to start to find things that are going to stack the deck in your favor that, you want to play to win, right? Why just play this game you're not even playing to win? And I think when you start to play to win, you use these strategies and these perspectives, these methods of having awareness in your life. You'll start to find that you have a lot more power than you think that you have, and you'll start to get a lot of momentum. So with all that being said, thanks for being on today. Also housekeeping too, besides the ever accountable 20% discount that I've got with the link, I also do personal coaching as well. So if you're interested in that, let me know. If you're a paid subscriber, you also get a discount on the sessions. If you sign up as a, let's see, what was it? If you sign up as, paid subscriber, you get 1 free coaching session. And that's in addition to like the initial call that we'll have. And that's completely free as well. And then I think it's a 15% discount on all future sessions. And then if you become a founding member, you actually get 3 free coaching sessions that are 1 hour long, as well as that initial call that we have. And then you get I believe it's a 20, or let's see, let me double check. I think I just switched up my discounts here. Let me double check here. I believe it's a 20% discount. So let me check while we're all here. Settings. Okay. Oh, duh. You just got my about page. That's what happens when you just say things you're not planning on saying. Okay, 25%. So to become a founding member, you get a 25% lifetime off. And I think like for coaching, at least, like I'm pretty reasonably priced, I think, probably compared to a lot of people, because I just think with with recovery, sometimes like there's that hesitation there. I do find that when you do coaching, you pay for it. It does help like embed that a little bit more into life to where there's a little bit of more of a buy-in. But that's just something else that I offer too. And those conversations that I have, really up to you on how you want to do it. Typically, we'll do a fast check-in where we check in. It's an acronym for how you're feeling, what your activities in recovery are, what your sobriety looks like, what type of threats there are, and what tools you are to combat those threats. That's typically what starts in the call. And then it's just a free-flowing conversation. Or if you want more structure, I can add that too. But with all that being said, we got the 5 W's done on Saturday. So thanks everyone for hopping on a Saturday, or if you're listening in your free time, I really appreciate it. And with that being said, everybody, keep fighting the good fight. Stay free, be free, and much love. Talk to you later.